Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be a little bit dark, life can be a little bit miserable, so we're here to bring you a little bit of light and a little bit of joy. I'm Bradley, and I'm feeling particularly ADHD today, so I do apologise to my partner for this week and every week, Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Well, I've got my lasso ready to reel you in if it gets a little bit crazy, you know what I mean? But yeah, we try.
Yes, and Stu's under strict instructions that if I start going off about Balatro this week, he's allowed to slap me. He's allowed to shut me down because I love that game so much.
Yeah, I've got a drone strike ready just in case.
Yes, you've got to save me. Talking of drone strikes, I don't know anything about drone strikes, but it seems weird. There's been nothing overly controversial this week. Maybe, I don't know. I've kind of not been watching the news because Liverpool won the League Cup with children in their team, so it's been like a fun week in football, and I've kind of like everything's been sort of like enjoyable, and I've kind of not really taken much notice of what's going on in the world. So, do you want to bring me back down to earth, Stu, or has it been quite a calm week in the world of horror?
I keep away from the news as much as I possibly can. I kind of get everything third hand, people telling me things. I've probably got like completely skewed opinions. The only thing that I've kept track of a little bit is Donald Trump's continuing fall, which is great. I mean,
he's still number one for president, which is weird.
I know. I'm classing it as good, even though that he might get in and just completely exonerate himself. At the moment, I'm calling it all good because he's on his way down the path of complete and utter bankruptcy. So, 2 thumbs up and a yay from me for that.
See, me and him are quite similar in that way. Like, I've got a DRO on the go because I've been poor with money and he's going for bankruptcy. So, me and Trump are very similar.
Oh, yeah, practically identical.
And I'm always grabbing women, always, It's just the way I am. I can't help myself.
It's a compulsion. Yeah.
On the more positive side of things, to move on, right? Just this is where I've been this week. I said the football, that's great. Edith's loving life, it's all great. But on TikTok, I found a TikToker called Bap Cat, who takes Cards Against Humanity cards, reads them out and has a selection laid on the floor for his cat to choose the answer from. It's so good. It's so wholesome. It's brilliant. He literally asks the question. Like, sometimes he uses the cards, he asks it, and the cat pounces on one of the cards that he's got laid down, and he reads out the answer. And some of the choices are brilliant. But also what he does, he gets other people just to send in questions, and he has the Cards Against Humanity answer cards down for the cat to choose. And yeah, it's brilliant. It's like sort of like my girlfriend wants to know, what's a good thing to have for our 3rd Valentine's Day together. The cat pounces on it and it comes up with syphilis.
Do you know, that's exactly what a cat would pick if they were conscious.
And we've been together. Well, what can we do to spice things up? What can we bring into the bedroom to spice things up? Pounces on it, dead babies. And I'm just like, this is brilliant content.
That is damn good content.
This should be the news.
Oh, it'd cheer you up, wouldn't it?
It is, and I love people who find a little niche like that and just go for it. I'm all for it. I love it. It's the same as I love. Have you heard of Zoe Bread?
No, I don't think so.
Zoe Bread, she's I don't know where she's from in the UK, but she's basically this anonymous woman, probably like late 20s, early 30s maybe, but completely anonymous. No one knows her face. She makes her own little like weird t-shirts, and she basically just goes about being a pest, like in the nicest possible way.
Yes, I know her. Yeah,
she wears to hide herself. She wears like a bread mask.
That's right. Yeah.
Again, totally wholesome. She's found a little niche for herself. Totally wholesome content, and I love it. Absolutely love it, because it's the antithesis to Joey Barton, who had a rant this last week, and this is how off the deep end he's going. Like, all these right-wing commentators, or whatever they want to call themselves, they start off and they say things when they first start, which sounds you kind of like, you have to go, no, what are you talking about? When you actually think about it logically, you're an idiot, but I get, you're clever with your wording of that. And then they go off the deep end. Right, so first of all, he's been going on about our women commentators and how the games aren't the same. It's like men's sports better because it's faster, it's stronger. Blah blah. You kind of go, well, yes, technically you're right. The men's game is more advanced than the women's, but that's because of historical, way, like getting rid of women, essentially, and the way women's roles were in the past, and the way they were treated and weren't allowed to be good at things like that. So that's why there's this massive gap. But you worded it in such a way that you're being sneaky. And you're like, okay, Joe Rogan does it. Who's the other knobhead who sounds like the one off the One Show? Alex Jones, not the Welsh Alex Jones, who's apparently lovely. But anyway, they all do it and they start and then they go off the deep end. And his latest one is they've got women in FIFA Ultimate Team who are rated higher than some men. That distorts reality. It's a video game, Joey, you stupid prick.
Yeah. Oh, what fun.
It's a video game, and he's naming some random from Bolton. Like, no offence to the random guy who plays for Bolton. I don't know who he is. He's going, well, he gets a 62 on the rating, and Beth Mead gets an 87. This is not fair because the guy... Shut up, you knob. It's a made-up game.
What a prick. I mean, you know...
And you're like, you just got... Even the people who kind of supported the guy, Joey. You're a knobhead, mate, now. Yeah, but... He's a prick. I just wanted to point out, this is the Joey Barton's a Prick podcast. He's got his Common Sense podcast, which is ironically named. So we are the Joey Barton's a Prick podcast.
Yeah, well, he totally is, so that's a fair thing to rename us.
That could be the title. You could starve out the bit at the end, but that might get us some hits. You never know. Joey Barton's a Prick. If I say it enough, the SEO will catch up on it and everything, and we'll be rolling in the monies because that's what you got to do, innit? That's how you get the monies coming in. You've got to be controversial.
Oh yeah, we're all slaves to the SEO god. Oh, completely.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how that works. I just type in, like, when I do my indie roundup, my SEO is just like the word indie, and I'll just make sure I put the word indie in my little description thing. There you go, that'll do. I don't think that's right, because I keep getting emails from people going, hey, your ranking on Google's not very good. I was like, oh, whatever, I don't care.
I have no idea what it's all about. I'm useless.
You've put your podcast on YouTube, but you don't get many views on YouTube, and we could help you get views by doing it. And I don't care. It means effort.
No, I can't be asked. It's just like, sod it, you know.
We can give you our 5-point platinum. No. Yeah. There's more than 1 point. I've gone, you've lost me.
Absolutely.
Talking of points and losing them.
Yes.
It's not even football. Video games sometimes have a point, Stu.
They do. Occasionally.
No, but occasionally. What have you been playing? How many you got? I didn't even ask you before we started. How many you got this week?
Just the one this week, Mrs.
Well, it's me first then.
Yes.
It's about time you shut up, Stu, and let me get in there.
Bloody hell. Go on, what have you been playing this week?
Oh, God, I don't know what's up with my ADHD this week. I've been playing, mate, first of all, I've been playing Dicefolk. Dicefolk, F-O-L-K. Folk. Dicefolk. Folk. Dicefolk. There we go.
Like right, yoke, okay. But with an F.
Yoke. See, no, I've got words like that I just can't get my head around.
The steering device, not the thing from an egg.
Yoke.
No,
see, I can't, because I say like one like it pisses Low off. I can't say the name Cole. Yeah, I can't say that name properly.
What is it? Are you trying to say? How's it spelled?
C-A-R-L.
Oh, Carl. Right.
And it bugs her. Like, I can't say that properly. There's like loads of words I just can't say properly. And I've done this because my head's so busy. And I've now just found out that folk is one of them as well. Folk. But anyway, I've been playing Dicefolk. Folk, whatever it is, right? You can work that out, okay? Yeah. It's spelled D-I-C-E-F-O-L-K. Look it up on Steam. It's really good.
Cool.
Basically, you'll never guess this. It's about like dice. essentially. You go through an adventure, and you come up against these monsters, these RPG style battles, and you battle them by throwing your dice or getting your dice, rolling your dice, selecting what your dice do, and attacking, defending, upgrading, buffing, debuffing, all the little bits you get in RPGs. Except what's the nice little twist with this is you get two playfields essentially. You get a playfield on the left, the opposition, the enemy, get a playfield on the right, and your playfield's like a spinning circle. So you have like 3 characters on each side, and like you could like attack from the front. But you can also get dice that allow you to spin the circle, so a different character goes to the front, but you've got different characters who use range combat and stuff like that and can attack over the first person. And you have to kind of get the balance right. So you might have, you're playing against the boss, you want to do all the damage to the boss, but he keeps moving to the back and putting like one of his little minion things in front of you. So you've got to then try and go through them or spin him and do it. But this is what I really like about this and what's really clever. The enemy don't decide the moves they make. You decide the move the enemy makes based on the dice they roll. So you might roll an attack dice, a move dice, and a buff dice. The enemy might do a weighted dice, a attack dice, and a move dice. So you could like plan, right, do I want my enemy to get their attack out of the way, or one of my ones who have got more health, and then I spin mine to attack the boss? Or do I get one of their do I spin them to get one of their minions to do a smaller attack, and then I can take them out? And you have to balance the dice for both sides. And it's a really interesting concept, because the more you buff, the more better dice you get, the more you upgrade, the more the enemies also upgrade. And it's got this it is a roguelike deck builder, and I know you're not a big fan of the roguelike deck builders, but it's like, again, it's right up my alley. And the mechanics of it, I first started playing, I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. It feels a bit complicated, but I've done after I've done about 2-3 runs in it, I've started to really get the mechanics, and it's one of those where I can't say, oh, I've played this game before and it's just another one of them. It's its own thing, which is why I'm having to learn a lot with it. And I'm having to sort of go, all right, this is what I do. This is what differentiates it from a Slay the Spire, from the game that shall not be mentioned, etc., etc., etc. And I just really taken to it. But there's still something about it that stops it being I've got to play this right now. And I know I won't mention it, and I'm going to say, and I really just honestly don't know if it's because I've got Balatro on the go, and that is my go-to game at the moment. And they are both of the same genre technically, and whether it's too much for me to do. So I've put a few hours into it, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's really good, but I've had to backburn of it because I don't think I'm going to enjoy. I don't think I'll get the enjoyment of it yet until I'm completely worn out of the other one. So this is in my I've got a list on Steam of games I 100% absolutely must come back to, and I just think honestly this is so unfortunate this has come out at the wrong time. It's like when Titanfall came out the same time as Call of Duty and Battlefield. It's got no chance, unfortunately, but it's really good.
Yeah, or Sonic Superstars coming out at the same time as Super Mario Wonder, that kind of thing. Yeah, no, it's unfortunate when these things tramp on each other's sales. But yeah, no, I mean, hopefully it's got a longer tail, because it sounds like it's pretty decent. But yeah, you wouldn't want to have both of the two on the go. I mean, I don't know what you're like, but I tend to have, if I have a couple of games on the go, they tend to be pretty much diametric opposites, like a racing game and a strategy game, or action strategy. But I can't do the two at once really anymore.
No, and they're both enjoyable, and I did like one evening spend like a couple of hours on one and a couple of hours on the other, and I did enjoy it. But at the end I just felt a bit I could have spent all that time on one of them, and the one I wanted to play, again, this is no fault to Dicefolk, is the other one. I wanted to play Balatro because it's just that good. I mean, we're talking a 10 out of 10. I said last week for the first time, perfect game. And something that's an 8, 9 out of 10, which is still bloody fantastic. But you get the really nice steak or the pretty good steak. You're going to take the really nice steak every time, unfortunately. But give it a couple of weeks, and if it has, I'd still try the pretty good steak. Like, not that one, because obviously it had gone off if it's sat there on your plate. But if I went back to a restaurant and they went, oh, we're only serving the pretty good steak, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Give it to me. I'm all for it. But same price, you've got the really good, like the boss steak, the best steak ever. I'm having that. But yeah, it's really good, is what I'm saying. It's a nice steak. It's Dicefolk.
I get the urge to have like really crap steak sometimes. You know, I know that's a very strange thing to say, but do you ever get those like desire to go to one of those really crappy chains and have a kind of really mediocre meal just because it's cheap and fast and a bit crappy? Or is it just me?
No, Stu, I'm poor. I'm really poor. I have 2 children who do activities, and I come from a council estate. They're the posh restaurants for me.
Yeah, fair point.
I really thought you was going to go, do you ever have the urge to go to Tesco and buy one of those steaks that looks like it's a lattice?
Yeah. Oh dear.
No, I don't. I've had one of those once, and they are tough as old boots.
No. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, oh god, yeah, that did sound very culturally.
Tory stew now. All right, Tory stew. Do you ever sometimes fancy slumming it at Miller and Carter?
God, no, I like that place.
No, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. Sometimes, like not a Weatherspoons anymore, because obviously the gammon face bacon knobhead, whatever his name is, I can't remember, but he's a prick. Yeah, I don't go to those, but sometimes you fancy just like a dirty pub burger or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely, that kind of thing. Yeah. Just fancy the lowest common denominator, and yeah, I mean, I don't honestly. I could go off on this one. But no, I like doing that now and again. But there you go. I'm a bit weird.
Yeah, why not? It's fine. I like it. Like, I don't look. Every now and again, I go, I really fancy a Mackey's, and I don't like Mackey's. Every time I eat a Mackey's, I go, I regret that.
Yeah.
Why did I do that to myself?
I don't mind the burgers. it's everything else that. Well, no, not everything else. I like the milkshakes. I can't have the milkshakes anymore, obviously, which is crippling. Oh no, we could get onto a whole food thing. Let's stop ourselves.
I know, I mean, the way you always take us off subject, and it's just bad.
My derailing is absolutely disgraceful, isn't it?
Oh, I know, you've got to learn. I've been trying to teach you.
Some restraint, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back on track. What have you been playing?
So, I've been playing a game called Penny's Big Breakaway, which so it's a 3D action platform game. Well, platform, heavy on the platform, lower on the action, and it's by the guy Christian Whitehead who did Sonic Mania, so it's like a good pedigree. And as you'd pretty much expect, somebody who sort of dedicated himself to doing mods and extra levels for Sega property created by Yuji Naka, he's rather into his old Sega games, and it's very much in that mold, and it's mostly like your kind of Sonic Adventures in a way, but it's got a lot of
good,
exactly. Yeah, it's a lot better. It's a lot more streamlined and refined than that, and it has got obviously Nintendo DNA in there. It's got little bits of Mario, as you'd expect, but as a 3D platformer, it's very much in that kind of Sonic 3D mold. And you know how I characterize those types of games. So what the game's like is you've got like a little move set, and not very big, but that is quite adaptable. And you have a lot of obstacles. So it's like an obstacle course where you have areas that have full interactivity and are a little bit slower, and areas that have limited interactivity and are a bit on rails. And the two can blend a little bit depending on what kind of moveset you've got. And you really see that a lot in Sonic Colors, and probably some of the others, but I never play them really. But I loved Sonic Colors. I was that guy.
Very underrated, Sonic Colors.
Well, yeah.
It's not great, but it's very underrated.
Yeah, it just clicked with me. It really did, and it's got that sort of thing of you kind of like traversal, the way that it keeps the pace up is by taking the control away from you sometimes, but this does that less. And the way that it does that is you have a yo-yo, that's the whole gimmick, and the yo-yo can help you do double jumps, it can help you like do extra speed in the air, it attaches to things, it can attach to items as well and do things with the items, and it's got that kind of flow that's pretty good. And you've also got sections where enemies come after you. It's quite funny. They're like penguins and they swarm after you. And if they all get onto you, like they drag you away. So you have to kind of try and negotiate all the platforms while avoiding these enemies trying to grab you. And there's no kind of, up until the boss fights, there's no other enemies like that. It's a good way of doing it. It's quite unique, really. You're not jumping on things' heads all the time. It's basically doing an obstacle course. And yeah, so it's kind of good looking. It's very, very simple. It's obviously designed to be run perfectly on Switch, and then anything above that is gravy. It's got an appealing look to it, nothing special, but quite attractive. It's got some nice little gameplay quirks in there, some pickups and power-ups that are good fun, and the way that you use them is quite good fun. And the sections are quite well mixed up, so you, just as you're getting used to, like, I don't know, flipping through a grate or using a power up to zoom up a wall vertically or this kind of a thing, or traverse a skyscraper in a certain way, you'll then get something else that's completely different, and it will bring in a different type of barrier or the speed at which a platform's moving, and it'll keep the balance moving. The only problem I've got with it, because all of that is good and it's got some really clever ideas, the balancing is a little bit off, and only in parts and not always. So it's got bits where I would say the main problem is when you're moving from one of the kind of open regular platformy sections to the on rails bits, it sometimes asks you to leap between them or disconnect or press a button at a certain time, and those can be a bit clunky. They're not very smooth. So obviously you've got Mario, which is like a sandpit, and everything in it is absolutely perfectly balanced, and if you don't make a jump it's because of you. And you've got Sonic Adventure, where there's a lot of it on rails and sometimes you fly through the scenery, and Penny's Big Breakaway's kind of in the middle of that. It's not bugged, but design-wise, there are a couple of things that aren't as smooth as they could be. I think, to sum it up, really, it's a really good, fun adventure platformer with a few niggly issues, but nothing that stops it being a kind of a good purchase, I'd say.
Yeah, it's one of those on my wish list. I hate going about price with stuff, but it's one of those on my wish list, and it's just the wrong side of 20 quid to make me go, do you know what? Give it a go.
Yes, yeah, it's a funny price. I always find that price point a little bit odd. I'm not quite sure why they land on it. Perhaps it will be one of those that drops down. I think we said, didn't we, last week about introductory discounts being a good idea, because you're rewarding people to come early, and it will widen the pool of who will people who are fence sitters might just go for it. Whereas you're kind of relying on the whales if you're going for, whales with a WH, if you're going for that kind of a price point. And I see why they've gone for it. I guess they're hoping that Christian Whitehead's name drives those sales, but I think it will see it discounted comparatively soon, to be honest. But it's a good game.
See, that's an interesting thing. So for people like me and you hear Christian Whitehead and you're like very much, yes, all right, I'm taking notice of this game. Whether I buy it or not completely, I'm taking notice because I know who Christian Whitehead is. Your average player, I haven't got a clue who Christian Whitehead is. And then you rely going, well, he's to do with Sonic. And it's like, okay, well, this doesn't look like Sonic. This isn't Sonic. Okay, well, it is and it isn't, but it's on the guy who did it, so mechanically it's going to be so. So, I think one of those, I don't think it's like me. I think it's going to be a lot of people who fence it and go, not yet, but I could see it sort of maybe getting a lot of buzz the older it gets and more people pick it up, whether it's in a bundle, whether it's in a sale, whatever, because you go, I tell you what, a tenner, I'm going to jump in. I've got a tenner to play with, whatever, or I could afford to get that. I'm going to jump in at a tenner. 25 that's a chunk of money there. That is a chunk of money these days. And it's just, again, I hate the money talk. I really hate that we're in money talk. And when we're talking about so many layoffs in the industry at the moment, to be saying, I don't fancy that at that price, I don't want to put someone's livelihood at risk at the same time. But I know that's not on me to have to do that. But yeah, it's one of those where I like the look of it. Your talk up of it has me still interested, but not enough to go, I'm in.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. The reason I wanted to take the leap, do you know, actually, the game itself, and I don't think I'm projecting onto it, the game itself is basically exactly as I thought it would be from seeing the trailers. You know, it's one of those that you kind of like, you look at it, you know exactly what you're going to get, and you really do. And I was like, yeah, I'm up for that. I know it won't be amazing, but I know I like those kind of things. You know, it's got some DNA of like, well, it's got DNA of all the 3D adventures, but there's some Billy Hatcher in there. You know what I mean? That's so obscure comparatively these days. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg came out on the GameCube. It was a Sonic Team game. It really very funny to control. You're rolling an egg around, which is obviously bizarre because they're not round, they're not spherical. It's a very strange game, and it's got bits of that in there. So it's a kind of love letter to past Sega franchises with all the bad as well as the good that brings. So it's a really funky, strange one, and I bought it because it's funky and strange rather than because I knew it would be another Mario.
Yeah. Just on one thing, what about Penny themselves? Mascot material? I look at it, I mean... Penny, is she androgynous? Is it a girl in there? It's a girl's name, but
I think it's sort of coded as female.
Okay,
it's not a great mascot, to be honest. I mean, I feel
no. As I said, I don't look at it like you don't like. You look at Sonic, you look at Mario, and you kind of go, "They're iconic." I don't, but Penny doesn't look iconic to me. It doesn't look like that could breed future games and spin-offs. And I know that shouldn't be the be-all and end-all, but a mascot platformer, which is what this is, I want my mascot to be memorable.
Yeah, precisely. It's in the kind of Bubsy the Bobcat kind of level of design where you see it and you're like, oh yeah, it's that one. But if you don't, you can't really recall it very well. It's not one that you'd get from a silhouette like you could with Mario or Sonic, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important when it comes to the design. Now, see, Christian Whitehead had with it was the gameplay rather than the design of Sonic, I believe. So you can almost tell that just by looking at the trailers. Well, obviously you say you've played the game, but you can look at the trailers and go, if the most iconic thing about your character is their tool, then yeah, maybe the character design's not the best. But at the same time, I look at the gameplay and I go, this is definitely one I'm going to try at some point because it looks fun.
Yeah, I would recommend having a go at it at some point. I also on the subject of marketing, I think the name of the game is pretty weak as well. You know, it's like when I saw it, I was like, Breakaway? Why Breakaway? I thought it's got to be something to do with yo-yos. So I googled it, and yeah, it's a yo-yo move, the Breakaway. But apart from that, and it doesn't scan very well. You know, having an apostrophe in a title for a start isn't great generally. And, you know, Penny's Big Breakaway, it doesn't really work for me. It doesn't say anything about what it is. So, yeah, that's a bit of a disappointment. But I reckon that hopefully it will pick up enough sales and they'll get to do a lot more like this. Because one of the things that's really impressive is the height of the levels. You know, there's some great verticality in it. Some stuff that, you know, like Sonic, makes you get that kind of head rush vertigo feeling of, oh my God, we're going way above the kind of the level of the screen, which has become a bit of a, you know, that's become a bit of a unique point in the last few years because there's so few games that actually bother to do it. Everything's corridors. Yeah. And so it's got really clever stuff in it. So I'm really hoping it does well.
Yeah, fair enough. Fingers crossed for Christian, because again, I think one of the good guys in the industry as well for so far. Just in case that comes back to haunt us in many years or whatever. Seems to be one of the good guys in the industry, and I say has made the best Sonic game since the original trilogy. So you know, good luck. Hope it does well and maybe develops further. And we see Yo-Yo in another game.
Yep, absolutely.
Maybe not Penny, but Yo-Yo definitely.
Yeah.
Moving on, The other game I've been playing this week, I was nearly writing about. I was going to put it in my my indie roundup, and then I realised, oh bugger, it's not an actual indie because it's from Focus Entertainment and Saber Interactive, and it's Expeditions, a MudRunner game. You heard the MudRunner series, Stu? MudRunner, SnowRunner.
I've heard of them. Yeah, I've not played them, but heard of them.
Basically, MudRunner and SnowRunner, basically you get these, I said basically way too many times there. You get these vehicles, trucks generally, and you basically drive them. I said it again, I can't get it out of my head. You drive them across various terrain, whether it be like snowy terrain in SnowRunner, like American Outback, American Mudlands in across America, increasingly more difficult terrain that you got to get through and basically do delivery jobs. Essentially, that's all the games are, except the fun is in the navigation and the driving and the difficulty with the driving and managing your vehicle and make sure it doesn't get damaged and like. In the SnowRunner, these bits where you might have one vehicle that you can't get past a certain area, so you have to go back, get another vehicle to bring it round, and then tow it through because that first vehicle hasn't got the power to get through, but you can get one that does. And it's got all these lovely, brilliant elements to it, and it's a game I can lose hours in. Expeditions, a MudRunner game, is technically the third, maybe fourth in the series, but the third main line in the series. And it's got all the same trappings in there, so you're basically needed to go in and do your jobs, do your deliveries, tough terrain, you get a drone to go and check things out, loads of different types of missions and everything. And the core mechanics of the game, the core driving, are all still there and still really, really, really fun. But it feels like it's been designed in a way for a season pass. So there is a year one edition and a supreme edition, which gives you like different packs and so on. And they're talking already, I think in some of the materials, there's like about like year one, year two DLC and stuff. And it's like, don't do that on first launch of your game. Release your game, all the content, and then if it goes well, then start going. I tell you what, each year we're going to add more stuff. Do that. I've been playing No Man's Sky, which has done that initially the wrong way, but it's now done it the right way. It got the proper game out there, made sure the game was worked, and then started adding to it. Now, they've done loads of free updates. Whether that's through obligation because of how badly it launched, I don't know. But they continually add. You get these seasonal expeditions that you do. And, you know, each one lasts for about 5-6 weeks and they're brilliant to do. And that model feels like that would be perfect for a game like this. Whereas I feel like I'm playing it, but I'm going to get to a point it's going to go, right, now buy this other stuff. And that kind of puts me off wanting to go too deep into it, which is a shame because, I say, mechanically, it's sound, the driving sound, the visually, it's lovely. The vistas you get to see when you put up places are outstanding. I think it's actually got more character than the original MudRunner game. I think it's definitely on a par with SnowRunner, which is absolutely sublime as a game. But I can't shake that feeling of, this is a game designed to sell me stuff in its structure, and that hurts because it's a game I had really high expectations for.
Yeah, it's funny how these things can impinge like that. It's weird. It's I think there's a cultural difference as well between, you know, depending on how old you are. I think if you've grown up with this sort of stuff, it's much easier to accept and not be put off by it, I would guess. You know, I mean, you know, I'm old. I can't actually speak out of direct knowledge because, you know, obviously mine and your entire, you know, life growing up was you pay for something, it belongs to you, and that's the content. And if the content's weak, you don't buy from that person again. You know, if it's great, then they've got a good reputation and they build their brand around that. And we're in a totally different world now where you can be just left prepended on this hook, just waiting for some stuff to actually fix a problem or improve something or add additional content that should have been in the first place. And your tolerance for that, I think, if you're particularly you're kind of my age and you've seen all these things come and go, is very, very low. So I can imagine it being a very off-putting situation, yeah.
And the frustrating thing is, like, the game's released at 35 quid, which is half the price of most AAA games of that now. So we're getting a good price for your base game. And from what I've played and what it looks like there's content-wise in there, I've not got to the end yet, but what content there is and I've got access to, that 35 quid price point for what I'm getting there, spot on. Absolutely spot on. Right, if you want to do an expansion later, do it, it's fine. Right, but that 35 quid for that is absolutely bob on. But you've got to pay 55 quid for a year one edition, which gets you all the year one DLC, which is generally just more trucks and stuff like that. Or 60 quid for a Supreme edition, which gives you, again, literally the only thing that gives you is something called a Pioneer Pack, which I think is just some more extra trucks again. And I'm not a big fan of expansions just being extra trucks.
No.
For me, you want to do an expansion, give me new missions. That's an expansion to me. Not just new skins, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
But say 35 quid for the base game is, and you do get, like, in terms of it, you get good content for that game to actually play, and that's fine. Do Expeditions 2 at 35 quid, or do, Expeditions Australia as an expansion. The way like The Sims and stuff like World of Warcraft used to, that's a great way of doing the expansions. Charge me another 15 quid for an expansion that's got all the content. Chuck a load of trucks in there, chuck a load of missions, chuck a new area in there. That's what an expansion should be. That's what a Game Pass should give you. Not just extra trucks, because at the end of the day, whenever I've played a game like this, I generally go, this is my favourite vehicle. I'm going to stick with this vehicle. And then I go, I don't know if I want to try these new ones because I like this one and it might feel sad if I leave it. I know it's an inanimate object, it's a car, a digital car at that, but I get attached to it and it's like, I don't want to leave it. So I'm not going to try all the new stuff. Now, maybe that's just me, but it's just kind of, I get it in Fortnite, I get it in Valorant and all games like, I don't get it in something like this. I really, really don't. And it's a shame that I'm going off about that because the gameplay, everything about it, it's such a solid follow-up to SnowRunner and MudRunner that I want to recommend it. And my recommendation on this, honestly, is get the 35 quid version, ignore the rest.
Yeah. No, that sounds fair to me. Yeah. I mean, if it's got the solid base content, yeah, why not? Invest. Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. It's a good game that, oh God, I think the marketing team have got onto it. Or not the marketing, the big wigs above have got to it. And unfortunately, but it's a good game, and the developers have made again another good game. And I don't want to say don't buy it because I don't want to see layoffs because layoffs fucking suck. EA are disgraceful. Sorry, right, I'm just very, very sorry. Sorry, I'm just going to very slightly touch on this. EA, right, they had Spider-Man, not EA, like they suck, obviously, Sony. They had Insomniac, who made Spider-Man 2, which became their fastest selling game, I think, of all time, or something along those lines. It made ridiculous numbers, and they've laid off their staff. What?
Yeah.
What can you do if you're a developer, you want to get a job in the games industry? What can you actually do? Most jobs, if you're good at your job, you get rewarded. You get progression. Not the video games industry. You do well at your job. No matter how well you do, someone's just going to go, oh, yeah, but we've got to continue making more profits, so off you go. Why?
Yeah, I know. It's this thing of, there's always growth, there's always room to grow. And it's like, well, no, there isn't actually, There's a certain ceiling of how well you're going to do, and those people got you to that ceiling, and you should accept it and be happy with the vast amounts of money you already have. But no.
You've made $1 billion, right, as a company, right, and that's more than enough to keep your company going. And if you're making $1 billion a year and don't grow, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. If someone turned around to me, Stu, and said, right, listen, your podcast, we really love the podcast, right? So we're going to pay you £100,000 a year, okay, to continue making that podcast. You get that. How you decide to divvy that money up is up to you. So I go, right, I tell you what, Stu, 50 grand for me, 50 grand for you. That's that. Nice and split. I'm happy with that for the year. I'm not then going, right, I tell you what, Stu, I'm going to lay you off next week because next year I want all that monies. Because it's just what goes through someone's head that goes, oh, this isn't enough money to live off. Right, or whatever. I might be completely wrong with 50 grand or whatever, but for me, I'm on nowhere near that. So that's 50 grand a year for me is like magic money. Like, but what's wrong with that? Of going, we've hit the ceiling, everyone's comfortable. All right, the CEOs are still getting plenty more than the people who work and actually do the jobs. Right, so that's fine. We continue making games. If we start to see a massive drop, like that billion turns into £1, then you know what? Yeah, fine. Do something about it. But if that billion drops to 950 million, or even worse with a lot of these companies, that billion only grew to 1.1 billion. Oh, that's not enough. Behave. Sort your priorities out.
And none of it makes sense because that what they do, they tend to get, because they chase the same amount of money, they ignore the standards. And of course, ignoring the standards starts with getting rid of the people who made you rich in the first place. You know, it's like, it's that quality of studio that got you to this point, and you're saying, oh, well, we can get rid of them and we can have half the number of staff and still make the same money. No, you can't, because what you're thinking is you can just make, these quality games. It's like, no, you've reached there through hard work, toil, effort, the team's cohering, having that inspiration to be that good, all of that sort of stuff, all the stuff you can't really buy. It's part of, the human experience, and they're ignoring all of that. And what they'll do is they'll produce something that's nowhere near as good. They'll make a third of the money, and then it's disaster stakes. And, that's, pure disaster capitalism going on and on.
Yeah, 100%. And they get greedy. You're like, I'll bring EA back into this very, very slightly. They decided they didn't want the competition, so they bought exclusively the NFL license. Right? They bought the exclusive NFL license, which meant 2K couldn't make the games anymore. And all of a sudden, you went from having what was like 2K5 is the best national NFL game ever released. Sony didn't like it, bought the license. Madden was decent for a little bit, but never great. And they just got worse and worse and worse and worse. More and more buggy. The lot. It just became poor. You see it with Assassin's Creed. Say what you want about Ubisoft, etc., etc. The first few Assassin's Creed I found were really enjoyable. Okay, before we all knew what horrible company they were, right, Ubisoft. But the first three Assassin's Creed were good. They made cuts, they've done this, restructured, whatever. Assassin's Creed Unity come out, buggy mess, because it seems to be the first people to go, and I think gamers also don't give the respect where it's needed, are to game testers and quality assurance. Those that go around and go, actually, we've played this game for 17 hours on this one level, and we found these bugs, get these fixed before we ship it. They don't do that anymore, we just deal with it after. So you're losing that quality, and it's why now, for me, I've stopped getting. I still fall into trap now and again, but I won't buy a game from an EA and Activision and Ubisoft, like, for various reasons. I don't even know who's left from any of those, like Capcom even, Konami, any of them, without first going, right, what is this game actually like? Because I can't trust it. Whereas an indie, don't get me wrong, I'll jump in on an indie. I'll forgive that single developer for quality assurance not being 100%, or not fully tested it in this, fully tested it in the wild. I get that. Big companies, screw you, right? But honestly, I would honestly say, right, if you was planning on spending 70 quid on the next, I don't know what the next big game out of EA is, but if you was planning on spending 70 quid on their next big game, go buy 3 or 4 indies instead. Support the actual core of the games industry, the talent, the future of it, where it's all coming from. Because if you just only continue to support the AAA developers, there's going to be no industry to actually look at in years to come. And you're not going to be able to play their games because they'll shut down all the servers. Whereas you'll still be able to play Penny's Big Breakaway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a pretty parlous state, and I'm glad that we support the indies the way that we do. It's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I started the indie roundup stuff, because I like to talk about them, and it's very hard for me to shovel them all into the podcast. And like, there's ones I do want to sort of like shout out. I've been playing this week, and I've got to finish just finish up the post to put up, but a dystopian horror game called Avoid Hope, which is a beautiful little 2D dystopian psychological horror type thing. Really, really good. That gets the atmosphere spot on. And also been playing over the past couple of weeks, I've had it for about 3-4 weeks actually, Corpo Nation, The Sorting Process, which is a Papers, Please-esque game about mundane work where you've got to sort things into different things, but you also get that Papers, Please thing of there's stuff going on in the background and you get requests come through, and even your downtime's not your downtime and stuff like that. It's a really, really intense game. That each game, well, these are the experiences, and it's only a few hours long. These are the experiences I do want. Whereas I could go and stick, every now and again you get a Cyberpunk, and that nails it eventually. No Man's Sky, No Man's Sky is indie. I think a lot of people forget that. No Man's Sky is an indie game. And that's easy to forget. So it's why I was a little bit more forgiving with it. I overpromised. Sean Murray overpromised. We're not going to, you can't get around that, but it's an indie game. And that they've made good. But every now and again there is an outlier. But on the whole, if you want those experiences, you want the different types of emotions, whether that be you want to be hit, like gut punched, whether you want to feel good about yourself, whether you just want to have fun, blow off steam, shoot aliens in the face, become start dating chibi girls or whatever, you can do all that. And you can choose the game to do that, not some massive AAA, we've got to tick all the boxes, and ends up just being a bit of nothing. And then that, I might enjoy this. If I enjoy it, it's good, I've bought it, but there might not be a sequel, or definitely not a sequel like this, because half the staff are gone. Screw the corporations.
Yeah. As usual, they are the worst.
Yes. And on that note, talking to screwing corporations, I'm going to shut up now, Stu.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Stick it to the man. That's what I say. Always the best idea.
Or the woman, or the them.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah. So, that's it for this week. As usual, follow all our content on the website. Check us out on YouTube, see all the videos there. Join us on Discord if you wish to chat. And until next time, stay safe and stay sane.